Gender, I think, when it comes down to it, is like a presentation, and how you feel about your body and yourself and your identity in your society.
Hundreds gathered at a candlelight vigil in Columbus, Ohio this weekend in memory of transgender teenager Leila Alcorn.
Growing backlash over controversial new laws in Mississippi and North Carolina. Mississippi's governor signing a sweeping religious freedom bill into law that businesses to refuse service to LGBT people. In North Carolina, PayPal pulling out of a planned global hub in Charlotte over a similar law.
Tonight we start off with new information about the transgender woman found murdered in Northwest Baltimore.
It's time to do more than just solve each homicide as they happen. It's time to do more than just arrest these horrific people that commit these violent crimes. It's time to do the work beforehand, to look left and look right and know that we have got to stand up with and stand up for our transgender and gender nonconforming individuals.
603 friends of a murdered transgender woman say she was a college student pursuing her dream.
It's a respect for privacy. It was an expectation of privacy that individuals have, especially our youth have, when they go into a locker room, a shower, or a restroom. They expect only people of their gender to be there in that shower, locker room, or restroom. And
in fact, 82% of transgender students feel unsafe at their school. In fact, 42% of transgender students have missed school due to feeling unsafe. The fact that students feel unsafe to the point that it affects their education shows that something needs to be changed. We interviewed Jason Goodman from the Pennsylvania Youth Congress, a group that seeks to aid oppressed students and provide them with voices.
So as agencies, they jointly issued guidance to school districts that all schools receiving federal funding are to require are required to allow students who are transgender or gender expansive to have full access to the school and educational opportunities. It's really horrifying to have individuals in our community see each other being attacked in the streets for being who they are, being demeaned in the hallways of schools, and being murdered for being who they are. So we need to talk about these impacts and how they are disproportionate and how they significantly impact many trans people's self-safety and self-worth. That sends a very negative signal out to the world that, that's expected. That's the narrative we need to reverse, and we need to protect all people, regardless of who they are, but it's certainly transgender people and trans women of color are disproportionately impacted by violence and harassment.
There was actually, I don't know if you're familiar with the trans, the trans lifeline, which is like a suicide hotline for trans people, and they said that after North Carolina passed the trans bathroom bill, disallowing trans people from using the bathroom that matches their gender identity, that their call volume went way up.
That was Alyssa, a transgender woman who works at an LGBT bookstore called Giovanni's Place. We caught her off guard, so for her comfort, we did an audio recording instead of a video recording. This is what she had to say about gender.
Right now, in kind of progressive political agendas, I would say just more having the rights of trans people, put into concrete laws to make sure people can use the bathrooms that match your gender identity, have insurance cover whatever medical needs trans people have, like surgeries or therapy or hormones.
Great Valley was the first school district in Pennsylvania to implement a trans student policy. We interviewed Ms. Trimble from Student Services about this policy and the LGBT community in Great Valley.
We need to educate ourselves so that we can treat all of our students, families, community members with dignity and respect. And we need to be able to see and recognize people for who they are. So if a student identifies as a trans boy, he would now be free, if he chose, to use the guy's bathroom, and vice versa. The locker room. The policy states that you are treated and accommodated by the gender with which you identify, not necessarily the one you were born.
Greater than 50% of trans teens have attempted suicide. 48% of transgender teens have experimented with drugs or alcohol. Schools should be a safe place for people, but many trans individuals feel incredibly unsafe in schools, leading to dangerous behaviors in an attempt to cope. We talked to Sarah Lynn Grove and Timothy Ryder from Sanctuary, a transgender therapy center, about how transphobia affects students' ability to learn.
And let's be clear that this is a reminder about the way someone expresses themselves. And if this is getting invalidated to the point, like, keep in mind this is the setting of a school. Fundamentally, when people feel safe, secure, and supported, they will do better work. They will learn better. Let's not let this undermine someone's like fundamental education that's going to serve them well for the rest of their life.
Yep.
And especially, like, I know teachers think about this often. Supportive teachers will inspire a student for their lifetime, possibly in a subject they never thought they would love. And a teacher that like can bust up rapport with a student can turn them off of something they loved.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true for all students. Let's not let this thing be the reason that's like non-academic. Another when you asked about ways that's unjust or undue, the misgendering is the most visible because it's verbal.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that I've seen are things that we could, again, people thought would be predictable about a school experience. Gym class lining up by boys and girls.
I was just going to reference that.
And
Thank you.
And watch. I mean, I've worked in schools. I've worked with a lot of children, and it's almost the safest bet ever that anytime that they line up by boys and girls, someone's going to make a comment about the people that are in the middle.
Yeah.
Because the fact the line had to start and end somewhere, and someone will make a comment. And the fact is, someone in that room was thinking about the idea of what does that mean.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the one, on one hand we can look at that as there's like a microaggression. The other hand is, okay, the subject's coming up here, teachers. Jokes come from the heart.
We as a school can work together and make this a safe place for our trans students. Think about a world where a mother and father aren't crying over their child's grave because they couldn't be accepted. Think about a world where a trans student is excelling in classes rather than hiding and being left behind. Trans people exist, whether you like it or not. They will always exist, and their voices are just as valid as everyone else's. This isn't a joke. The violence, the tears, the aggression, it's not a joke. Think about what you're saying next time you want to joke about trans people. Think about the voices that were never heard.